It was an opportunity that likely will never come again. An invitation to spend 48 hours aboard the Navy's USS Carl Vinson. The Nimitz-class supercarrier was tuning up for its deployment in early 2018. A small cadre of journalists, including Daily Mail photographer John Chapple and retired Army Ranger Jose Martinez, joining a wide-eyed sportscaster on what would be an experience of a lifetime. Before we could rethink our decision, our traveling contingent strapped into the C-2 Greyhound that would ferry us to and from the aircraft carrier known as the Gold Eagle. Once that cod door lowers, the first thing that comes to mind,
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Dorothy, we know exactly how you feel. No matter how much instruction you get, nothing fully prepares you for the sheer volume, heat, and proximity to danger of the flight deck of an active aircraft carrier.
The thing that is most likely to get you hurt is falling down the ladder. And the thing that is most likely to get you killed is just about everything up here.
Without planes, the Carl Vinson's flight deck seems like a wide-open 4.5-acre parking lot. But add a couple dozen FA-18 Super Hornets, along with other assorted Hornets and Helos, and suddenly you have a valet's worst nightmare.
At night, or during the day when I can actually see it, I will taxi myself over the end of the flight deck because the aircraft is still comfortably on the flight deck, but my rear, and basically I sense that my body is over the water, and then I'll do a very sharp turn to avoid continuing off the flight deck.
Space is even more confined below deck. Another 20 or so planes are being maintained, repaired, and moved up and down elevators constantly. There's lots of moving parts, requiring a strong emphasis on crew safety.
It's your job to move the planes around.
We gotta move back. Move back.
They call them crunches, you know, when the wings hit each other or the nose or anything. They can always be minor, but even one little scratch on like just the tail of it, one little scratch or something is like 50 grand, something like that. Like, so no room for crashes or anything like that.
Do they ever bump? Do we ever have like a little fender bender?
We try to minimize that as much as possible, but in any area where you have things moving, it tends to happen, but we keep it to a bare minimum.
Do you call an insurance agent, or what happens when you have to?
That's not my department, sir.
Now, the pilots normally get all the attention in stories like these, but just like a football team, the quarterback is only as good as the teammates around him.
We operate the catapult system, and we also operate the landing area of which we catch all the jets.
Just making sure everything goes well. Once the aircraft lands, we just make sure the aircraft comes in pretty smooth, and if it doesn't, then we go in for rescue.
Ours is helicopters. Our job, we got to chain them down when they get here. We have to fold them and move them to get them off spot so the fixed wing can come in.
The color of your shirt dictates your job on the flight deck, each sailor playing a critical role in a sophisticated ballet in boots that routinely sees the launch and recovery of more than 30 aircraft inside 30 minutes.
Once the aircraft gets in the pattern to land, we could actually launch an aircraft, but if we bring an aircraft in and launching them, then they can meet up, and that's where you get the wingman situation and stuff like that.
The sports analogy is real. Just ask former Montgomery Aztec star Paris Kenzie.
There's a lot of different jobs, like where I work at, in my work center, a lot of different jobs, so we have to come together and work together. And it's the same on track, especially like when you're doing a relay, because if one person messes up, everything goes downhill from there.
It takes all the concentration one can muster to avoid getting sucked into a jet engine or cooked by its exhaust. There's also the real possibility of being blown off the side of the ship or an arresting cable snapping. And still, despite the peril, we had to be dragged back below deck. And that's when it really gets confusing.
I think a lot of the time they were leading us round in circles just to mess with us. You know, there was a lot of steps going up one and then down the other and around a corner.
Hansel keeps dropping stones on the ground thinking, we can follow these stones home.
Hansel and Gretel would have preferred grandmother's woods to the layout of an aircraft carrier. For starters, there's no ladders to climb in the woods, no steel hatches to crack your head on, and a simple trip to the bathroom doesn't require a search and rescue mission.
There was one part where there's a very long corridor, and it looked like I was walking into a mirror, and there was somebody walking towards me, and as he got closer, I'm like, that's not my reflection, that's a sailor wearing a uniform. It's crazy big on this ship.
Assuming you can find the mess hall, you'll be pleasantly surprised at your menu options. The cuisine is better than you'd expect, especially on Sundays.
Sometimes I feel like the ship's schedule revolves around Sunday brunch. They want to make sure we get it in to give the crew a great meal. Sunday's a day they get a chance to relax a little bit, so they really look forward to a special roast and some Belgian waffles.
It's everything to them. I see why the captain makes us do this every Sunday. It's really important not only to the ship staff, but for the morale of the ship, because they really look forward to having a little downtime from flying the aircrafts all day.
What's the one thing that you make that's better than anybody else?
So far, I'd have to say it's mashed potatoes right now.
When the days are good, we hear it. When the days are bad, we also hear it. But mostly days are good, and usually the customers do come back and tell the sailors that was a good meal.
How would you rate the food as far as the overall experience is concerned?
Besides Sunday, I'll give it a solid 8.
Calories in require calories out. If going up and down ladders all day isn't enough of a fuel burn, there's always an aerobics class with the Fit Boss. That is, if you don't mind working out alongside the Admiral himself.
It's absolutely fantastic. I love when the upper command really comes out to all the classes. These younger sailors see them working out, they get motivated to work out.
And I don't care how fancy your local neighborhood gym is, it can't match the view of the Carl Vinson Seaside Workout Center.
I absolutely agree. When you really think about it, when can you ever do this kind of workout staring out into the ocean?
If aerobics is not your thing, there's always a hangar bay Zumba class to check out. Night lights mandatory.
It's a pretty popular class we have on board. It's one of the more relaxed vibes that we get, and we've been doing it for about 3 years on the ship. Pretty nice little thing we got going on.
With the Fitbit approaching 90 flights of stairs climbed, we finally were sent to our staterooms. But not everybody was sleepy.
It's approaching 2,300 hours inside the Fulton stateroom here aboard the USS Carl Vinson. What's a distinguished guest supposed to do? Well, you can listen to your roommate snore, or you can watch Night Ops on closed circuit TV.
Every naval aviator will tell you that night landings on an aircraft carrier separates the great from the good. In part 2 of our series, we go inside the cockpit of an FA-18 Super Hornet with Lieutenant Commander Brian Sunshine Sinclair. Sunshine has over 600 carrier landings on his resume, many of them coming after the sun goes down.
The things you normally rely upon in the day, which would be horizons, being able to see clouds and whatnot up and down, it's black. I want you to picture of yourself stepping into a closet and then shutting the door behind you.
From somewhere in the Pacific Ocean aboard the USS Carl Vinson, along with photographer Jose Martinez, I'm Paul Rudy, KUSI News.